Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our roundtable for episode number 94 of the Inside Infinity podcast. You know who Jason and I are, but we have another special person with us on tonight's show, a special guest, actually. The one and only Luke Henderson, coming at us from www.maxi-geek.com, another fellow Australian. How are you doing tonight, Luke?
I'm doing really well.
So I'm a little worried because listeners of the show love the Australian accent. I was talking to Steven about today, and yeah, you guys just have that soothing voice that everyone loves. So we're glad to have you on, joining Jason tonight.
Well, in that case, I'll drop the Australian and go for something a little more local. just to help even things out.
No, mate. Full Aussie. All right, let's do it.
But before we
thing, mate. Why not?
Before we got started with the show, Jason, I don't think we were live, but Jason was making fun of my American accent, and it's pretty awesome. I think the rest of the world thinks all Americans come from either Georgia or Texas, because it's always that southern draw accent.
Yeah.
No, you got that Wisconsin up there in the north. You know, they got their cheese factory and all that sort of stuff up there. So
that's amazing.
Can we get one of those on the show? Come on.
Lim actually lives in Wisconsin, so that is amazing. Oh my gosh, too cool. Well, Luke, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do? So again, your website's maxi-geek.com, and so what do you do over there?
So I just toys and movies and all the geeky stuff that I love.
So this is a site that you run, and it literally is everything geekdom.
It's everything I find interesting, at least. It's not everything geekdom, because I have a normal 9-to-5 job, and there was no way in the world I could do that and everything geek related. So I just stick with the stuff I like.
It's crazy impressive, though. You're so active for having a 9-to-5 job. This is impressive. You have stuff every day, so that's really cool. So you cover video games, you review games, you do comics, hardware, movies, a lot of stuff. So I'm sure that keeps you busy. But it's a great site. Now your audience is just all things geek, right?
Yeah. So I've got people that they're there for the comics. Some people go for the comic stuff, and some people go for the games, and starting to do movies more and more these days. So
that's incredible.
Awesome. Yeah. Incredible. Here's your Inside Out review. Did you enjoy that?
I did. I got to see that. What was that? 2 weeks ago, 2 and a bit weeks ago, at an advanced screening here in Australia.
Jason, is that the same one you went to?
No. I went a week later.
Oh, okay.
To another weirdly advanced screening. It was kind of advanced screening. I think Village must have had a thing, because I still saw it like a week before it actually officially released.
Some weird promotion about putting it on early.
Yeah.
All I know is that I was one of the few people who knew the story of Inside Out at E3 because the movie hadn't released yet. So everyone was like playing as these characters, and they had no clue what was actually going on.
How was that? Did that kind of make looking at the and analyzing that a little bit easier, because you knew a little bit more about the story, and so you might have understand a few more of the assets and stuff in the game?
No, I mean, they're pretty independent. It's only the characters that sort of transfer across the story. It's not a movie adaptation. It's a sequel of sorts. So knowing who the characters were helped, and knowing their personalities helps. But you don't need to see the movie to get the playset.
Right. Cool. And so obviously I brought up the game section, which includes just articles and reviews. So I assume your love for video games and your coverage of that is how you ended up at E3?
Yeah, so it was June 2012 I started the site, actually, and I thought, for 2013 I'll apply for E3. Never thought I'd get it. Got told no. I was like, yep, fully understood that reasoning. And took that. So I said, why exactly? They gave me some feedback, and I was like, sure, feedback helps. Built the site up to what it looks like now. And then last year I applied expecting a no and got a yes.
Awesome.
I was like, out of nowhere, I'm going to E3, which is something I never thought I'd actually do.
Yeah, that's not. It's a little bit further away than it is for me. That's quite the trek to go to E3 for you.
Yeah, it's a 14-hour flight. So, and then I've got to get to the airport and all the bits and pieces at the airport.
Right. That takes dedication. Was it worth it going this year?
Yeah. So last year it was sort of a last-minute inclusion into the schedule. This year it was a very planned thing. So I had all the press conferences but one covered.
Wow.
And then that was Ubisoft. They're the only ones who couldn't play ball because they're stuck in the world's smallest theater, apparently. And then Nintendo Australia and Square Enix put a nice little breakfast on for us Aussie media heading over, so that was nice for them. But the show floor itself, last year I made the mistake of booking things back-to-back in different halls.
Yeah.
So, Disney Infinity in one hall, and then, Nintendo in the other hall, and then back to Capcom, and then back to Xbox, and it was back and forth the whole day. And this year I planned things a lot better.
So you're able to not run yourself ragged as much?
Yeah, I only had one where I was bouncing from one hall to the other and back again.
Okay.
Everything else was always either in the same hall, or if I moved to the other one, then everything was in that hall from then on. So
since you were there last year, obviously I wasn't able to make it this year, but I was there last year. How did it compare size-wise and kind of atmosphere from last year? Did it feel the same? Was it the same size? Was it the same amount of excitement? Because the impression I got, granted I was an audience member this year, whereas last year I was a participant. Oops, just changed the scene. It seemed like this year might have been a little bit bigger. Am I correct in that, or was it about the same?
Yeah, no, it felt bigger because of the games. So the games that were on show, the announcements and all that, they get the crowd going. I mean, let's face it, Fallout 4 and Doom kicking off E3, that was a combination that, everyone was going to get excited no matter what interest you had in video games, because they're some of the biggest names in the industry. So it just kept building.
Interesting. Well, and it's funny because every year the show starts a day before the show starts, right? The big conferences are Monday night, or not the big, but a few of the majors like Sony and Microsoft are Sunday nights or Monday nights, excuse me. Whereas this year Bethesda pulled out the stops and they started things off real strong on Sunday night. So yeah, like you said, kind of sounds like it set the tone. So you were at a lot of those big press conferences. I assume you were at Sony as well then, right?
Yeah, so I was sitting. I was like 10 rows from the front for Sony. It was quite a seat.
So what did you think of Disney Infinity being a part of the conference once again this year?
Yeah, let's hear about the reactional room that I complained about last week. It fell flat to me from the live stream. What was the energy like in the room when Disney Infinity JV shouts?
It fell flat for one simple reason. Out the front of the LA Convention Center, there was a big booth. It was up for like a week before the show, and it had, Star Wars Battlefront, best on PlayStation, right? That was what confirmed that Battlefront was coming. Like, PlayStation was the platform to have it on. And then you're at the Sony event, and then the Star Wars music kicks in, and then you get the big star background across the whole thing, across their massive like 90-foot screen, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's Battlefront!" And then, don't get me wrong, I was happy. JV's great bloke. But everybody else is going the other way, and then all of a sudden you do a 180 to the toy-based game, and everybody in the room's kind of just gone, "Oh, it's the other Star Wars game that's coming this year." So
that's a good point. You're right. I was the same. I'm looking at that when I saw the big backdrop. I thought, okay, going into Battlefront. I think you're right. I think even though I said the opposite last week, where I think you'd want to put Disney Infinity first, so it's not being compared. I think it probably would have played better to say not only is this game coming, but there's also this one. That may have played better. Just flipping that reverse a bit.
Yeah. So I think that is why it seemed like nobody really paid any attention to it. But I know from talking to people afterwards, a lot of them were sort of happy that Disney Infinity was in there, because it sort of shows that it's not just a small little product. It's not Skylanders or Amiibo. Like, Amiibo's Nintendo only, but Skylanders had no appearance at any of the big ones except for that small little Amiibo Skylanders mashup at Nintendo. Everybody else was all, Toys to Life doesn't really exist for us. And this sort of put it at the forefront. And being that it was Star Wars, nobody could really say, well, no, it's not worth our time anymore because it's got those classic figures. It's those classic characters that everybody loves. So,
Out of interest, what was the Skylander presence like at the show? Did they have a big Skylander booth, or?
yeah, so Activision, they had, in American terms, 12 feet tall Skylanders and the cars and stuff next to them. The line for that was, about an hour long constantly for people to play the game. And I can't remember what the condition was, but you could actually get like exclusive event only Skylanders, which is not something that Disney did. They just gave away the regular, to store figures.
And we thank them for that.
Yes, I thank them too. I was off taking photos of the art of Disney Infinity. So not the toy box screenshots you showed before, but the concept art and the maquettes and stuff. I have to actually post that up. Still haven't done that. So I was taking photos of all that when the gentleman from Disney came over and it's like, oh, yep, here's your figure. Here's all your press stuff, and and then sat down and started going on with the game.
So tell us about the game then. What's your... I'm really wanting a good detailed analysis of the actual how it felt. I mean, we've all seen I think we've seen most of what the press saw, the gameplay demos, but I'm really interested in the nitty-gritty of how it actually feels, particularly maybe if you can give us some your best comparisons maybe that you think it's probably closest to feeling like, and just overall polish and so on.
Okay. Well, so the first thing I played was the kart racing, which is the one thing that I was more interested in. The first thing I saw playing, so it was my little tour was with another journalist who writes for Hyper.
Okay.
Jason should know Hyper.
Yep, the old Hyper. I used to love it.
Yeah, still going strong apparently. So
Right.
that was so we were there going, as a pair around the booth, and she was playing Inside Out. So I was watching and I was talking to the guy from Disney, and we're going through what it's like, and we were just having a bit of a chat at the time. But after that, we went and checked out the Toy Box Hub, and the gentleman from the Disney Infinity team was demoing it for us, going through about all the features and stuff, and I had a chat to one of the producers. He's been on Disney Infinity TV Live, but don't ask me his name. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. There's so many of those. So we did that, and that's where I found out the El Capitan Theatre is going to be in the game. But when you can actually wander into the El Capitan Theatre and watch episodes of Toy Box TV.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Which I didn't know that beforehand, so I thought that was pretty cool. And asked a few questions for some Infinity fans here in Australia to get some sort of local answers. And then there was the Toy Box kart racing, and there was like, oh, what do you want to check out? And I said kart racing, like drop of a hat. Don't get in my way now. This is what I have to play. And the gentleman loaded up the Nightmare Before Christmas track. So I jumped in 250cc, top of the line, and I came second.
Wow.
I didn't win. I thought I was going to win. I thought, I'm a car racer. I play Mario Kart. I love the Sonic games. It was a battle race, so all the cars had weapons. You pick up items and stuff. But the problem that I had was that along the edge of the track was like, this rusted picket fence along the whole way. And there were pumpkins stacked alongside like you would for a Halloween decorations. And I kept bouncing into them and spinning off and then having to get up to speed and all this. But the whole course, there was the fountain from the center of town was near the start line. The slot machine guys on the roulette table inside Oogie Boogie's little domain, they were there causing problems. There were jumps. There were giant banks. So in 2.0, there's a 90-degree bank turn, which goes up the side. This one, they were like 3 times longer, but it wasn't a turn. It was more like a big curve. So I'm hoping like that's a new piece that we can use when creating racetracks and such. Yeah, I mean, there were buzzsaws going across the track, so you had to actually watch where you were going in case you actually got hit by a buzzsaw. And spun out. But the thing that really impressed me was it felt proper. So the racing in 2.0, I never had a problem with it. It worked for me, but it still felt loose. Like when you started a drift, you always sort of did that little bit of a jump, and then the drift kicked in, and then all of a sudden you just went full ball across. You had to then start to correct yourself straight away. It doesn't do that anymore. You start the drift maneuver, but until you actually start to turn, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't just auto drift anymore, which really, it was fantastic to do. It was so smooth.
So
that was the kart racing.
So it's proper. I mean, would you put it up there? You seem to be very familiar with kart racing games and a fan of them. Would you put it up there near the quality of the others you mentioned, Sonic and Mario Kart? Like Mario Kart is the ultimate?
It's definitely up there with Sonic
Really?
All Stars. I mean, it's done by the same people, so you'd expect
Right.
it to be up that level. Mario Kart and Sonic, they're still very different games in their approach to how they do things, so you can't really compare it to Mario Kart, but it's more Mario Kart Sonic as opposed to like 2.0 looking like Outrun or Need for Speed, where, you know, the slightest touch of a button and all of a sudden you're drifting like a king.
Yeah.
Were you able to get a sense of the amount of kart content there is in the game? We've seen that video where they go through a few of the tracks and stuff.
Is it like split into cups, could you tell, or is it just individual tracks?
No. So there was multiple setups. So there's like battle race, regular race, battle mode. So there's different event types, I suppose you'd say. Then there were different cups, so 50cc, 100cc, 250cc. So obviously the AI would then be more, you know, stronger or whatever you want to call it, depending on your skill level. And then there were a range of different courses for racing specifically. I didn't see any of the battle ones. But I think from memory there was about a dozen or so tracks that I saw.
I'm super excited about that. I think the potential of the tracks. I love the idea of themed tracks, like the Nightmare Before Christmas track. Like, I just really hope they keep on it, because I'd love to see, like, you know, a Peter Pan themed track, and you know what I mean? Like having a story almost built into a track is something that's not necessarily been present in a Mario Kart or anything like that. I mean, there's, I guess there is sort of a story in it, but it's not known. Like Luke just said, there's something cool about, oh, there's the fountain from the movie, or like there's Captain Cook's pirate ship. You know, I think that's got cool moments in racing in those worlds.
Well, we saw there was a Sugar Rush track, which has been hinted at quite a lot in everything they talk about. But the other thing that I noticed, there was I think it was Gravity Falls. I think there was a Gravity Falls based track.
Ooh,
don't like quote. Don't know that you like take that to the bank. So the gentleman had to flick through the tracks to get to the one where you were allowed to play quite quickly. So I believe it was in there, but we'll see what happens in the long run. But the thing that really sort of jumped out at me is that it wasn't like 2.0 where you say, oh, I'm starting a race, and it's a prompt. Oh, start your challenge, yes or no, you know, brief description, then your race. It was a nice intro cinematic. The camera would pan across bits of the track. You'd see, you know, the things moving around like you would in a Mario Kart or a Sonic racing game. You see those intros to the track. And then, you know, everyone's on the starting line, and then you go for it.
That's
so
cool.
A normal sort of kart racer start screen.
My final question on the race is, I heard, and I don't know where I heard this, I was under the understanding that it was going to be like in Sonic All-Star Racing or whatever it was, where the track changes over a series of laps. Did you see any evidence of that? You know how in Sonic All-Star Racing, like, bits of the track would drop away and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's not that extreme.
Right.
So the Halloween, the Nightmare Before Christmas track that I was racing on, the last lap, I was in first, and then I got hit by giant buzzsaws, which were not there on the first two laps. But then when the lady from Hyper was racing, they appeared on the second lap for her, but, you know, so they were still around.
So some randomization.
An email from Disney about Disney Infinity just came through.
Breaking news?
Any breaking news that we need to be aware of?
Just checking. No, it looks like it's just a recap of everything from
E3.
From E3. But yeah, so it's the tracks were different depending on the lap, but they weren't to the extreme that Sonic was. It's more just like small individual elements were activating randomly depending on the lap. But there were shortcuts. So the guy from Disney on my second lap goes, "Oh, there's a shortcut," and I missed it. So on the third lap, I had to make sure I got the shortcut so we could, do some tricks. And there was a coin there on the track, and I didn't pick it up, so I don't know what it does. But there's something on the racetracks to pick up.
So something.
Just quickly, slightly breaking news. Apparently, 150 Australian dollars recommended retail for the special edition PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3 version. I didn't know that.
Yeah, $149.95.
But that's all right. Don't crowd. That's recommended retail. We never play recommended retail in this country.
No. So that's so the starter kit's still priced at, I think it was 89 here was the recommended price with the price drop. And then the playset starter kits go for $40. And then individual figures go for 18, so it works out to be around the same. I think it's a little bit more because there's some exclusive PlayStation content, but I don't know if that's timed or if it's permanently exclusive.
Yeah. Another question we'll have to ask down the track is, I wonder if these web codes... Do we ask if with web codes we're going to come with the power discs? I don't think they are, to unlock in the PC version. Be interesting to see how that's all handled this time around.
Yeah, I asked that question to the producer about the power discs. I said, I also asked about the figures. My most of my figures are level 15, level 20, and when you go to the PC or the iPad versions, they're not there. Right. They're down at the base level. And he said, it's something they're working on. And he couldn't give a definite answer as to if it would be fixed, but it's something to keep an eye on.
All right, so back to your experience. So we've kart racing, that was really good. What did you play next?
So next I was that was all I actually had time to play at the Disney Infinity booth. I didn't get a chance to sit down and play the Star Wars sets, unfortunately, there. However, I had some time at an off-site PlayStation booth. So away from the show floor, private, 1/8 of the people normally around. There was only about 40 people in the room. And there was a guy from Disney Infinity there sitting on his chair, on his own, playing the game. Because, it's basically everyone had a little demo station and then somebody from that game talking about it. And this was the only one for Disney Infinity in the room. So I went up and I sat down with him and we played for about 40 minutes.
Nice, wow.
We played Disney Infinity. So I played through the Death Star attack, so the Battle of Yavin when you're in the X-Wing, did the droid factory on Geonosis with multiple characters, and then the Battle of Hoth.
Wow.
Battle of Hoth. Yeah. So did all that.
Let's start with the flight then. How does the flight feel?
So the Battle of Yavin, if you've played Star Fox at all, it's very much the same controls. The ship's always moving forward. It goes, at a decent pace. You can do a little speed up and a little slow down. You can move, around in a plane, but that's it. This is not free flight. The free flight comes later. This is a very on rails experience, getting you used to the combat, getting you used to the controls. It works. I'm not a fan of the Star Fox thing, and the last Star Wars game I played where I actually got to fly an X-Wing was the day before, which was Battlefront, but before that it was the Rogue Squadron games. So I'm used to open space flight, so it's a bit weird going back to a sort of locked path. But it works. I mean, the environment, everyone's seen that demo. If you haven't watched it, you should go watch one of the many hundreds that have come out from E3 of people playing that section, because it's fun. I mean, the only thing I can say about it different to what other people have done is that it's not what you're expecting. It's actually built using that new spline tool that I know, Jason, you're hanging to get your hands on.
Oh, hanging. That's a good word, hanging for it.
Yeah, so it's using that tool to create that effect. So the actual, it's not like they've built the tool from this, it is that tool.
Wow.
So that tool will allow you to create your own X-Wing flight game if you so desire to.
That's really cool. And I guess it's also worth noting for anyone who isn't aware and listening to this, but it's obviously only one small element. It's not like the whole playset is that type of gameplay. So it's actually could be quite refreshing just to have a moment like that, but not stuck doing it all the time.
Yeah, well, so in terms of like order of the story, this is like the very first big set piece. Right, so it starts off, you're actually inside the Death Star doing the escape and all that sort of stuff. But then once your first big flying is inside the X-Wing. So it's very much the tutorial. This is how you do fly. These are the controls. This is how you shoot. This is how you do your little tricks to do your flips and all that sort of stuff. So it's not the full flight experience, but it's the introduction to it.
Okay, cool. So what was the next thing you said you did? The droid thing.
Yeah, so I did the droid thing first, but the X-Wing,
Right.
I just love my X-Wings. So the Droid Factory, it's the same thing that they've shown on Disney Infinity TV before. It's not anything, exclusive or anything like that. But my Anakin was level 2 at the time. Ahsoka was level 6, I think. Obi-Wan and Yoda were back at level 1, so they weren't all that powerful. But, they had the setup where you can hold down circle on PlayStation, and if you pressed it right as a blaster bolt was coming in, they would then deflect back to the actual attacker.
Awesome.
If you just hold down circle, it just deflects randomly in some general direction. It doesn't stay
Wow.
in it doesn't go back to the attacker. It just goes off into space. So
That's good.
That's a cool counter gameplay mechanic.
And I think it
Yes.
speaks to that they're trying to get that more advanced, so that you can be more advanced in your combat. By the sounds of it.
yeah, so that was one of those. If you know how to do this and you want to do it, you can, or you can just hold down the button to block the attacks. When you fighting against the bigger, sort of the darker coloured droids, not the big ones that we've seen before, but these new ones with their purple blades, those you can't really defend against their attacks. You can't like parry it back or anything. But then you've got your combos that you can start to use as a Jedi. And if you press and hold triangle down, you'll launch the guy up into the air, and then you can do the aerial combos that we've seen and everyone wants to do, because you're a Jedi and you're all powerful at that point.
That's good. So
But
it
then
sounds
one
like
thing-
there is some complexity to it, like different button
Yeah,
combos
so
and
you can just
whatnot.
mash. So literally just mashing the triangle button will give you a standard sort of combo, which will allow you to take down most foes. But it's very, very subtle, but there is a pulse. So a bit of a flash on the lightsaber. So if you press the button, then you get a pulse, then you press it again, you actually start the more advanced
Wow.
combos, which require the spacing, which requires the timing to be right in order to execute properly. If you don't, it doesn't like just go, oh, you've done it wrong and fails. It then goes back to the default, just bash, bash, bash combo.
That's
So
awesome.
there is an element of DMC into the combat there.
I never played DMC, so I have no idea what that means, but it sounded good.
Devil May Cry, right?
Devil May Cry. So the
Yeah.
reboot that Ninja Theory did,
Yeah.
the combat's you can just bash the buttons and do really cool stuff, or if you want to take the time and learn the combinations and the attacks, you can do more powerful, more awesome looking attacks.
And is it Batman-like in that, like not exactly Batman, but can you like cross great chasms if you like? Can you chain enemy attacks together, or is it pretty much just
No,
lock
so-
onto the one enemy?
No, so when you're attacking, you're doing a combo usually against the one enemy. You can do them on the ground, and then if an enemy happens to get in your way, you'll do it, but you can't bounce from one enemy to the next to the next. It's
Right. Okay.
sort of focused. But then they all have their sort of powerful finisher move. For Ahsoka, she pulls all the enemies in and then sort of, throws them all away. And then Anakin, from memory, pulls in like a lot of junk and stuff and then tries to bash everybody with it all at once.
That's cool.
So there are ways of dealing damage to multiple enemies at once, but it's not a combination of one enemy to the next consistently.
Also, did you happen to notice, is it the same mechanic as in 2.0 where if your character dies, you have to put a different character on the base?
Yes.
It is. Okay, so effectively the amount of characters you've got per place that will determine how many lives you've got, so to speak.
Yeah, so there was a video I watched yesterday, I believe it was IGN, where they were playing as Luke Skywalker trying to take down the AT-AT on Hoth, and whoever was playing wasn't obviously that good at it. They failed. They died. They put in Obi-Wan, and unfortunately, where they died, they got shot and died. But when they spawned right under the AT-AT's foot as it came down and killed them. So then they had to pick another character, and
Right.
the walker had turned around at that point, and then they were on their own.
That's hilarious.
But they were using Darth Maul to take down the thing. So it is.
From memory, you
interesting to
can
note, too,
bounce
that-
between both characters, can't you? Can you bounce between two? I can't remember now. Like, once you put a diff on, you could go back to the original character you had on
No.
when that other one. No?
There's a time limit on it. It's about 10 minutes
Right,
between
okay.
when your character dies and when you can use it again. It is.
I just remember
interesting
going down
note
to
that
like my last character on that first boss fight in the Avengers playset.
Me too.
I did the same. The interesting thing to note is that with Boba Fett and Sabine and Zeb and Leia and Han and Chewie, all these non-Force based characters, we've seen it in the video all that time. The troop transport crashes through the pillars and stuff. There's a few droids, and then you've got to force push a door open. If you don't have a Force character, you can't get past that
Oh
point.
wow.
You do need a character that has a Force ability because you have to force push that door open.
Does it convey that? Does it communicate that pretty well, or is it just like it needs a Force character and you kind of have to figure it out?
It tells you that you need to force push
Okay.
the door. So I don't know if after a while it says, oh, you need somebody that's got, Force powers, but I mean, I was playing as Ahsoka at that point, so I had no issues.
That's interesting because that I don't know if we've seen that. It sounds like Inside Out's going to have a little bit of that, but there's going to be ways to temporarily use those other characters even if you don't own them. I'm kind of surprised a mechanic like that isn't present in this game.
Well, I mean, so every character that's, built around the Twilight of the Republic playset has Force powers.
Okay.
But
Okay.
And this is the thing. So the way that it works is none of the coins that you collect in order to use the original trilogy or the Rebels playset characters, you won't get those coins before this point.
Yeah.
So you'll actually unlock the ability to play as Han Solo after that
I
point.
see. Okay.
And so, are we assuming that's going to be the same for every time, or is once you got the coin once, you can then start the playset as Boba Fett, for instance? You reckon the next playthrough?
Yeah, so you can. So that's the way it works. So once you've collected
Right.
the coin, if you start again, you can then use any other character that you've unlocked to play in it. But that just means that if you are playing through as Boba Fett, you will need to change back to a Force
For that one
powered
moment, yeah.
character. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it does make sense too. From a gameplay
Yeah.
point of view, this is all about the Jedi at the height of their power, so you'd want to be playing as the Jedi. To be playing as Han Solo, I mean, in that time period is cool, but it defeats the purpose of being an all-powerful Jedi if you're playing as Han or Chewie.
Yeah, and it cheapens it if it's like, oh, you don't have Force powers, well, just shoot it instead,
Yeah.
that'll do. Like, that's
Yeah.
sort of, yeah,
Well,
it does.
So they
diffuse
mentioned
the-
it. I saw somebody in chat mentioned it earlier that Zeb can wall crawl in the toy box, but not in the playset, because he's a wall crawl. His character can wall crawl, same as Boba Fett flies in the toy box, but not in the playsets. So there was discussion some time ago. I was watching a video on where they were talking about whether or not they should redo some of the sections of the levels to allow for wall crawling ability. So if you aren't playing through as Zeb, you can actually do certain stuff. And in the end, they said, I think they went with the no. We won't let him have that ability in the playset, same as Boba Fett can't fly with his jetpack.
Okay. Well, so is there any other sections that are notable to comment on?
Yeah, so I mean, the final one that I did was Hoth, which everyone's seen the videos. Take the armor off the leg, and then you climb up the thing, take the batteries out, push the button, it blows up. The thing to note with this next section is where you take control of a snowspeeder. When you're flying around, the controls are a lot looser than they were with the X-wing. So it's still the same thing, but you're not locked in on a plane. You
Okay.
can speed up, you can slow down completely. You have to pull the buttons to do the tighter turns when you're doing the tow cable around the legs.
Awesome.
So it's a different feeling that it is flying the X-wing in the Death Star space. But then the cool thing with all that is that once you're locked in with your tow cable, it's not a permanent, it's attached, you just get to fly around in a circle. If you get too far away, the string or the cable starts to go red. The brighter it goes, the more tension on the line. If you get too far away, it'll snap, you got to start again. It's not. It's not. Oh, you've hit the button. Just watch this pre-canned thing, and the walker will fall down. And even then, once it's fallen down, you have to then come back around and actually shoot it to cause it to blow up. So bringing it down doesn't necessarily mean it's out of commission. You've just managed to trip it.
That's cool.
Okay.
And I actually
always enjoy it.
In one of the videos they had the tow cable got caught on a thing of ice, which in the movie I don't recall giant spikes of ice throughout the thing, but it got caught on the actual the ice, and the tow cable was going around that. I actually had that happen, and it causes the walker to fall down differently than it does if you just do it normally. So apparently JV was saying that the walkers will fall down randomly depending on the height of the tow cable. So if you put the tow cable up really high on the legs, you'll get a different fall as if it was down compared to if it was down lower around the feet, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
definitely cool. How would you say, I like to ask this question of everyone who's played the game because it's hard when we only see live streams and stuff, but how would you describe the polish and the graphics this time? Does it seem very similar to 2.0? Does it seem a little bit more high fidelity, or what would you say graphically?
Yeah, it's hard, and this is the thing with E3. Everyone looks at this stuff and they say, "Oh, it's all nice, but it's not quite correct." The problem with all of that is that this build would have been finalized like 2 months ago. So what they might be showing off on the live stream is different to what was playable, because they have to make sure there's no bugs, no game breaking, features that people are going to go, oh well, it's being shown to E3, it's out in a few months and it's broken beyond belief. So from a visual point, everything looks nicer than 2.0. So 2.0, especially the Avengers with their washed out snowscapes, it was very bland, but there's a lot of effects happening on Geonosis, for example. There's dust in the air, when you're climbing up the sides of the cliff faces and explosions go off, you get rocks and that fall down.
That's cool.
Just little touches just to sort of make you feel like you're actually in the middle of a giant battle.
That's really
And
cool.
same with the snow on Hoth. It does little bits and pieces to show that it is snow. It's acting like snow, not to the visual fidelity of Battlefront, of course, but it's still a lot better than 2.0.
That's awesome to hear.
So the Toy Box Hub, I also had we had a look at that, and that so everyone should know what the hub is from 2.0. With the mission givers to learn about all the things you could do. This is that, but it's a more refined version of it. Even once you start looking at that, it looks a lot nicer, and you can tell the game has more polish based on that alone compared to the 2.0 version of it. Not because of its a different approach to the way it's presented, but just the actual quality of the effects of when things come into play out of nothing and all that.
Hey, how does it compare to the hub experience? Personally, I thought it was much improved from 1.0 to 2.0, that kind of tutorial and onboarding process. Do you think the hub, does it push that further, or is it just a different way of approaching it, like you said?
To me, it feels like it's a different way of approaching it. It doesn't feel completely new.
Okay.
But I didn't I didn't sit down and spend time going in each of the areas and exploring each of the aspects of it. But that's when I was talking to the producer guy, so I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the game at the time. So, honestly, depending on, I don't think I'll go into it because I don't know if I'll get any value out of the Toy Box Hub. I'd probably jump in and start playing around with all the toys before I even, the moment I can, that's what I'll do. But for other people, I think it's going to be a lot better. But it's a tutorial space, so I think it's personal and how well it approaches.
So as far as you know, the idea is not to, when you boot the game up, you don't auto load into that area as far as you're concerned. It is like a separate place that you actually have to load into. I suppose it'd be hard with the E3 demos because they're sort of all menu driven anyway.
Yeah, no, so the actual so I've seen the menus, I've seen the start screen and all that. So much like the 2.0, when you pop down your crystal playset piece, the Avengers Tower image appears. When you do that in 3.0, same thing. You get the Star Wars one or Inside Out, or you get the toy box if you don't have anything on there. To my knowledge, and I suspect it probably will load up into something to introduce you to Disney Infinity, same as 1.0 and 2.0 have done. As for exactly what it'll do, I don't know if it'll be the hub or if it'll be something different. But it could be like with 2.0, and I think it starts out initially, you've got to have a playset piece down. And it loads you straight into that playset. But then when you come back, if you don't have it, then it goes into the one with Aladdin and Donald Duck chasing the treasure. And
Dude, you just got me excited. I completely forgot about, like, that's like the gift of Disney Infinity. Those first time series opening cinematics both have been awesome. Except for the 2.0 one, which was awesome, but it was the promise of something not to be delivered. I remember speaking about that. I was like, give me that game that you just showed me.
Yeah.
The whole awesome Aladdin intro, and you're like, well, that, not this. So
yeah, I wanted the
3.0
glass
version.
and anvil factory. So.
Cool. Well, what else did you see, Luke? That anything else? Disney Infinity.
Did you see any interior stuff by any chance?
No, they weren't showing any interior stuff. They were showing the farming, and I didn't have a good look at the farming. They were showing Toy Box Takeover, which I didn't have a look at that either. So, I mean, the amount of content that 3.0 is coming with sort of day one and then the months afterwards, it's a lot. And I keep telling people, like, the show floor is open for 21 hours is the length of the time show floor is actually open. So I pity anybody that actually has to work because they'll be there for, 2 hours into it and an hour past it. I had 20 and a half hours of appointments. So I had an hour at Disney Infinity on the first day, and then I spent 40 minutes of my time with PlayStation playing Disney Infinity again. And, as I said, didn't touch the farm, didn't touch Toy Box Takeover, didn't touch Inside Out, and barely looked at the hub.
Okay, so what you have either touched or just seen in articles or live streams or videos, what are you most looking forward to with 3.0?
My personal thing was the kart racing.
Okay.
Because as for Toy Box building, I'm horrible. I've made Jason go through one of mine before, and my Mulan challenge.
It's all right. Your Mulan challenge was good. It's going to come into its own.
I
3.0.
fixed it now. Jason got a little confused as to where you're supposed to go to begin with, so I fixed that. But I like making the kart tracks, the racing ones. So I was really excited to see how that had changed, and it has changed for the better. So that's the thing I'm most looking forward to.
Awesome.
But because I don't know the scope of the playsets yet, so we were promised like New York for the Avengers and then New York for Spider-Man, but it was basically one half of the island for one playset and then the other half for the other one. So I don't know, if it's going to be promising big and then delivering nothing for 3.0 playsets, or if it will be something different.
Yeah. Well, I've been hearing nothing but amazing things about the kart racing, even from people who weren't necessarily that interested to begin with. So glad to hear it's really shaping up, and as a kart racer yourself, that it's meeting expectations in that regards. And but yeah, sounds like there's lots to be excited about.
Yeah, I'm honestly just hoping that some of those pieces from the tracks are usable in the toy box to create your own.
Yes, please.
Which I asked the question and I got told we're not sure yet of everything.
Yeah.
I did ask this question. Those farming tools that everybody likes to build to level up their characters faster? I asked if they were doing anything to nerf those in 3.0. Seeing as they tried it from 1.0 to 2.0. And the answer I got was that with the amount of toys, the amount of options and customizations possible in 3.0, and they haven't even announced all the toys yet for publicly, he said it's impossible for them to consider every possible variation of how things will work. So they're not going out of their way to say, no, you can't build a farm to generate sparks. But whether or not that means that they've got something in place or they're looking at other things, I don't know. They're just not going to make it a core thing that people won't be able to do this.
That's a good question.
Best minds in the world, week 1, will be all about spark generation.
And I bet if it's broken intentionally, there's some smart toy box artist.
Some toy box Australian will be trying every combo possible to make that a thing, because oh my gosh,
too many toys or figures.
I mean, thank goodness they're not increasing the level cap. I believe that's official, so you won't have to worry about booting your re-ranking all your old characters.
Yep.
Yeah, no. So the characters stay at 20. The 1.0 characters don't have any new features added to them, unlike they did from 1.0 to 2.0. So you don't have to wait. So if you've already got them all at 20, you don't have to worry about re-leveling them or getting them up to whatever you need to. They're permanently at 20 now.
Thank goodness.
Yep.
Well, awesome, Luke. I think that's going to wrap up kind of this conversation. Jason, do you have anything else you want to ask Luke before we end things here?
No, it's just I encourage everyone. We'll post the link to his written thoughts in the notes, and encourage you to go check that out on his website. And yeah, as I said, I'm just so sick of talking. I just want to play it now.
Absolutely. What?
And you have to wait for it, whereas I have played it, and now I have to wait again. So
That's a
I've
very
had,
good
you
point.
know, that taste.
Yeah.
I've had the experience, and now I'm stuck waiting for my next.
Yes.
Like a junkie waiting for his next fix. He knows it's coming, but that wait is so agonizing.
Too funny. Well, yeah, I think we can all relate to that long wait for Infinity. So, well, Luke, before we let you go, do you want to? I'm bringing up your site again. Do you just want to
again mention one more time kind of what you do and how people can reach out to you and see and read your stuff?
Yeah, so it's anything geeky related that it's interesting to me. So it's not. I'm not going to be posting up every single piece of Marvel news or every single piece of DC news. I mean, there's a billion other sites in the world that do the same thing that I do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I think's cool, and it's my point of view on things. I've got the Twitter, which is on the screen there. I've got the Facebook page. I've got the Google Plus page, if you're one of those 7 people that use that still. I've got the YouTube channel, which I'm slowly trying to add more content to, but upload speeds here in Australia, being what they are for most internet, is not ideal. It takes me about an hour and a half to upload a 15-minute video. So working on that as well. Ping me on Twitter, on Facebook, you know, wherever I am, you know, if you ask a question.
That's awesome, Luke. We appreciate it, and everyone should go check out maxi-geek.com. We will link that in the show notes, and we will be tweeting it out when we post the episode. But we really can't thank you enough. We've heard lots of impressions at this point, but got a very unique point of view from you, and listening to kind of your expertise around gaming and the things that you enjoy. And so we really appreciate you coming on tonight's show, Luke.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. I was thrilled to be invited by Jason. So I couldn't resist. I had to do another one.
I didn't see on your site that you're a master of accents. That should be that could be your YouTube channel right there.
No, I actually had a chat with some bloke from a Melbourne-based developer about voicing in one of their games over at E3. So
No kidding?
we might see something there.
Oh, that would be
See what
awesome.
happens.
Keep us posted on that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'd do it purely for fun,
Totally.
just because I can. And it drives everyone wild when you do a voice.
What?
When?
Wow. You're
So it's
good,
very
man.
well tell you if you actually are Australian or not. You just could have a masterful Australian accent. That's what you're telling me.
Oh gosh, you never know.
You've got a job here.
Yep.
I can use that voice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there's I do quite a number of them, and I like doing Mickey, especially when you make him say things that aren't quite what he would normally say.
What other Disney characters can you do?
I think that's about all I can
Yeah.
do for Disney's Mickey. You know, everyone does voices here and there, or silly noises, and you know, I do a sort of a Yoda voice from time to time. But it's not what everyone. I do the crazy. You know, I've lived on my own for 80 years. Yoda off of Dagobah. Voices are just go for it there, and you know,
That's awesome.
I do kind of a Mad Hatter / King Candy mix up as well. Hello there, boys and girls, and welcome. Who
Well,
wants
this is
some
right.
candy?
Infinitoon talent right there.
Seriously. Seriously.
Cast that man in episode 3, which is coming out late 2017.
Still in production. Oh, Luke, that's awesome, buddy. Well, yeah. Check out your stuff. You got some really cool stuff. We appreciate you being on this week's show. Jason unboxed Sadness off camera, like
live unboxing.
I was waiting for this, so I'm gonna unbox mine now.
That's it. The live unboxing.
live unboxing of Darth Maul for those that can't see the video. Look at that. He's cool. That lightsaber.
Who's going to be
one
the
thing I did
first
notice
person to
too-
post a picture of the broken lightsaber from their child? That's putting
I
that
had
in
to
the
be
mouth.
careful.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool.
It's cool.
Yoda's lightsaber being green under a black light lights up. It's very cool.
Really?
A lot of black lights in the Sony booth, so
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, there you go. We had some impressions. We had some figure unboxings, and we had lots of E3 talk. I would call this a successful roundtable.
Definitely.
All right, Luke. Thanks, buddy. From MaxiGeek.com. Appreciate you coming on, Jason. As always, appreciate you having you on. Luke, this isn't gonna be the last time we have you on. We will definitely have you on again real soon because this is a lot of
just
fun.
let me know when you want me here, and I'll do what I can to be here.
Awesome. Well, we hope everyone enjoyed this week's episode number 94 of the Roundtable. Keep it tuned to DisneyInfinity.tv for all of your roundtables and Disney Infinity news. Until next week, everyone, we hope your week is filled with infinite possibilities.